formal. You're the Chief Operating Officer here at Decidr headquarters. I wanted to talk to you today about the article that you wrote quite recently. And that article went by the title of Ditch the AI Tax, Go Horizontal to Get Higher. Now, when you talk about the SaaS tax or the AI tax, for those who prefer to read with their ears, can you give a little bit of a breakdown by exactly what you mean by that, and how are businesses falling into that trap?
Well, firstly, thanks for having me. So there is quite a distinct difference at the moment between vertical and horizontal. Vertical basically refers to the applications most businesses have that do one specific thing. And when you look at most businesses, call it the SaaS stack, so their architecture, if you like, CRM, ERP, e-commerce platform, marketing platform, these are all kind of vertical pieces that do one thing generally good, some of them better than others, but they do one thing. And that's how most businesses have been built. And when we get into businesses and talk to them, that's how their architecture is. And when we talk about this move to the danger of putting an AI tax into your business, what I'm specifically talking about, and we have these conversations quite regularly, is that businesses have started to explore artificial intelligence in those individual pieces of equipment doing one specific thing in CRM. What will end up happening is if you've got 15 pieces of SaaS in your tech stack, you'll end up with 15 pieces of AI. So you're just adding on additional pieces of equipment, pieces of additional tech that individually might be adding quite a lot, great value, but my guidance would be to pause and think where this is heading. Like in the last 6 months, I would have had at least 100 conversations with businesses around helping them build an artificial intelligence roadmap, asking them some Q&A, and we've spoke to a few businesses that are down that path of they've explored AI in this vertical, they've explored AI in this vertical, they've explored AI in this vertical, and then they've gone, hang on a minute, where does this lead? Does this mean we're going to have 25 different AI applications, individually adding value but collectively not helping, and adding inefficiency and adding hard to manage and adding a higher cost base, quite frankly? That's vertical. So the move to horizontal is a platform that can do all of those things across front of office parts of your business, operations parts of your business, and back of office. So that's that move to horizontal, which is individual platforms doing one great thing. They're not connected to each other. They don't add value collectively. And the move to a horizontal platform, which is one platform that can help you in customer-facing things, supply chain and operations, and back of office, be it finance, payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable. Okay. So that's the difference between... And we've got tangible evidence of conversations we have where businesses have gone, oh, hang on a minute. And they haven't necessarily thought about the horizontal approach. All they've thought is, well, I've got this application now, I can do this. I've got this application now, I can do this. I've got this and this. And then they've gone, hang on a minute, where does this stop?
So in your conversations with said businesses, are they aware or unaware of this tax that is, occurring in their business?
I think overwhelming majority, yes. Until you point it out, it becomes quite clear. I mean, we've got probably two tangible evidence of businesses I've spoke to in the last 30 days who have actually paused. Now, they haven't paused because they know that there's a better alternative. They know that there's this horizontal approach. They've paused because they know that they're going down, they didn't call it an AI tax, that was kind of my wording, but they're going down the route of, hang on a minute, somebody in the tech spec, the CTO or the CIO has gone, hang on a minute, we've got 3 applications adding value, that's great, but if we wanted to get value across the whole business, that means we're going to have to add 35, 40. We spoke to 2 businesses last month that have over 100 pieces of kit in their tech stack, right? Big established businesses, hundreds of people, desperate for help with AI and automation. But that doesn't make sense. So they're not necessarily, if they come to the conclusion that, oh, there's another opportunity, there's another option, let's go horizontal, they've come to the conclusion that where we're going down this path is probably is not adding the efficiency that we think or hope across the business. It's adding efficiency to one specific thing. And it gets quite expensive, right? Think about Microsoft Copilot, brilliant tool, very good at what it does, but it's embedded into the Microsoft stack. It won't help you in back of office. It won't help you with payroll, accounts receivable, accounts payable. So multiple businesses I've spoken to, even in the last month, who have started exploring Copilot. It's great at what it does. Helps you summarize What you do in Excel, email can help you come up with a great formula, but it won't help you outside of the Microsoft stack. So a horizontal platform will help you across your whole business. So to answer your question, the vast majority of businesses are not aware of a horizontal approach, but some of them have started to become aware that their vertical approach is just simply getting them to a place where they'll have an AI tax. And right now they have a SaaS tax, so you're just adding another tax onto your tech stack.
So if I'm reading this right, many businesses are approaching it in the AI in the same way they did SaaS. So stacking rather than rethinking. What would be the shift that you would advise leaders to make to break free of that?
I think it's a mindset shift. I think it's, get your smart people in the room and start thinking about the current things that you're exploring now with AI. Where does it lead to? And I think in the cases where businesses have started to explore AI, and we've spoken to, let's say, well over 100 of these in the last few months, the ones that are already exploring AI, all of them are on this path to an AI tax, because every application that they've started to explore and getting value from individually will only do one thing, right? There is a plethora of apps that can help you with customer service. There's a plethora of apps that can help you with finance. There's loads that can help you with content generation. There's loads that can help you with search. You should be looking, the mindset shift is there a platform that can help with all of those things, whether it's customer facing, front of office, operations, supply chain, back of office, finance. So it's a mindset shift. But I will say it's when you explain it, it becomes quite tangible and quite clear. But most businesses, and quite frankly, most businesses are probably a 1 or a 2 out of 10 in terms of their AI roadmap. I will say, I'd say most people are at an AI ignorance phase at the moment, that they know AI is something. We don't hear any businesses say AI is a threat. We don't think AI can help us. There's none of that. But there's lots of businesses saying, we're not sure what we can do. We're not sure where to start is the number one thing we hear from businesses. We don't know where to start. We've got 100 people. We've got lots of inefficiency. We've got lots of duplication, lots of repetition, but we don't know where to start. And we actually don't know the full list of things that we can do.
How do we, you and I, maybe not, but how do we collectively figure out how to avoid that sort of, the rush for the exit? And that, the all of a sudden the doors are open to the concert and everyone bowls in. Like, how do we make sure that we're proofing and preparing ourselves appropriately?
So we have a concept of an AI hit squad. So I have an AI hit squad in my team, for want of a better word, but essentially it's business people who ran businesses, know a P&L, know what works, what doesn't work within the business. Technical people who understand an architecture of an organization and where the data sits and how it connects to each other. And then software people who can build solutions. So my guidance would be build yourself an AI hit squad. And that might be a CEO, someone who knows the business, knows the P&L, a CTO, a CIO. If it's a smaller business, just somebody who knows the data architecture. It could be a head of digital, and then somebody on the software side. You need to understand your current setup, and you need to understand all the things that you potentially could do. We call it a menu of artificial intelligence, right? Because what you find is with most businesses is there's so many challenges, there's so many bits of duplication, there's so many bits of repetition, where so many things that AI could help you with. What's that full list, and then where do you start? That's the number one question we get. So we term it an AI hit squad, the ability to go into businesses and ask questions. Basically, we do Q&A, and we ask questions that fall into probably 4 categories. Talk about the business strategy and ask questions. Talk about their data and ask questions. What data have you got? How does it connect to each other? Show me your data architecture. You could do this yourself as a business. Tell me your challenges, like where are your business challenges? Is it front of office? Is it supply chain? Is it back of office? And then tell me about current AI things that you've got in your roadmap. What are you seeing? What are you thinking about? You might not have started anything, but where do you as a business owner, CTO, think that AI could add value? So we've got a very, very robust roadmap of Q&A within each one of those sections. And the information from that is basically gives you an audit, and it tells you what that business could do, should do for AI. And the most important thing is, where do they start? Okay. And where do they start is usually where a combination of what the biggest challenge is and where the biggest ROI is going to be.
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of the word that that gets bandied around a lot when it comes to AI is agentic. And I just want to think about what is AI first, thinking agentic. What does that actually mean? And do you have any good examples of companies doing it well?
So agentic it's in the word. I mean, the first part of it is in the word, so agents doing things. But there is a few steps beyond that to make something agentic, which is it's making decisions, minimal human intervention, autonomously doing things. So I think an example I would use would be agentic AI. An agentic AI platform would it understands its environment, and in a business sense, that is your business data. So when I say an agentic AI understands its environment, the environment for a retail business, let's use a retailer, would be its data architecture. So it understands its environment. It's able to make decisions without human intervention, and then it's able to take action. So ChatGPT, which everybody's using, I use it every day. It's an amazing tool. It's not agentic AI. It might understand its environment, but it's not making decisions and autonomously doing things on its own.
Yeah, it needs you to input.
Correct. I mean, you can build a knowledge base and build your own GPT, which I have many of them, but it's not independently making decisions. It requires human intervention, and it's not autonomously doing things. I think that's coming. And with Operator, some of those things are coming. When I think about businesses doing it, and some real world examples, I think Netflix is one, agentic AI. So understanding its environment, you get recommendations. That's AI driven from Netflix. Is it a true agentic business? No, because it's not generating the content, and that's probably another rabbit hole. But it is understanding its environment, which is my browsing history and what I've watched and what I've searched for, and then it's making decisions on its own, which is recommending things to me. And I either like them, so I click on the thumbs up, click on the thumbs down. That's the environment I spoke about, because it's data, it's actions, and it's completing a goal. So agentic AI is very goal focused. It's not task focused. And the goal is to send me a notification to say, hey, here's a new documentary. You would like this because you watched that documentary last week. There's other examples, like Bloomberg is probably one in the financial space, churning through and analyzing vast amounts of financial data. Understanding its environment, that's the context, but then obviously making decisions independent of a human autonomously, and generating content and writing analyst reports and financial reports. Walmart is an example. They do it in inventory management, stock out of hand analysis. Amazon do it for their warehousing. So the commonality there, I think, is big enterprise businesses. Like, this is quite uncommon, agentic AI, but it's agents doing things, understanding their environment, which is your business data, making decisions on their own, and doing a task, completing a task that's aimed at a goal, so to speak. So that's kind of how I would summarize agentic AI. When I get asked the question by a CEO or a CFO, that's kind of how we explore it. But it's very enterprise heavy. The challenge is then, the important part is then trying to bring that down to a business that is 40 people and is turning over $5 million.
In that instance, how would you go about sort of distilling that down into something that's perhaps a little more palatable?
So I'd use the same analogies in the same context. You need, it's about understanding the environment. So I'll use an example of an e-commerce business. Let's say it turns over $2 million, sells shoes, might have 7 or 8 people in the business. So, at the smaller end of the SME space, they might have 4 or 5 different systems. They'll have an inventory system. They'll have a Marcom system that's connected to Google AdWords, Meta, because they're spending on Facebook, TikTok. They'll have an e-commerce system. Let's say it's Shopify. That is the company's environment, right? And when I use the example of agentic AI in that example, the first step would be a platform that is agentic, that can understand that whole environment. Those platforms, those vertical platforms now, are all individually connected to the business, and they're doing things successfully, but the data in each one is not connected to each other, and it's not the marketing data is not connected to the data in the ERP system, and the ERP system is not necessarily connected to the data in the e-com system. So they're all individually siloed, all individual vertical.
Yeah, there's no synergy between them, yeah.
Correct, but there's a huge amount of value if that could be done. And one example on the marketing side, like I spoke about, businesses spending money on Google, businesses spending money on Facebook, businesses spending money on TikTok. There are other channels, but I'll just use those 3. Now, most e-commerce businesses are using the back end of those tools individually to look at the ROI in those individual pieces of kit. If you were to get that data out of those individual systems and put it on an agentic platform, you would be able to work out the collective ROAS, return on ad spend, of those collective systems. That's not happening that's not very common at the moment. So Google will claim return on ad spend for this. Facebook will return on ad spend on this, but there's lots of cross-pollination between the traffic of where it goes. If you were to get the data out of those systems and put it on an agentic platform, all of a sudden that Google data can be connected to the Facebook data and to the TikTok data, and then you do media mix modeling is what it's called. That's one example, but that example is where the vast majority of businesses are today. They've got this vertical system. All those systems are adding value, doing their individual thing. My guidance would be to start thinking about a horizontal approach, whether you've started to explore AI or not. Even those ones that have now paused or starting to pause because they realize they're getting to this AI tax. But even if you haven't, if you want to get value out of your environment, your business data, you really need to be on a horizontal platform so the data is
What would you
connected.
say is the first, or it might not be a single decision to move to this horizontal way of working, but what would be your sort of roadmap to sort of ease someone into the bathwater of AI?
Wow, that's probably a podcast on its own. And I'll distill it into a few steps. One is pause. If you've started to explore AI already, pause. And that doesn't mean just stop what you're doing. Just pause. Just have a think about where you're going vertically and think about horizontal. Do some research. So pause. That's if you've started to already explore it. And as I said, we've got a few tangible.
Is that something, again, just to loop in what you said before with your conversations with businesses, are you seeing people sort of the fear of, I don't even know if it's the fear of missing out, it's the fear of being left behind?
I think the interesting one is if the businesses that I've spoke to very recently that have already started to explore AI and have 2 or 3 use cases in separate systems that don't, so it's a vertical AI approach, they've started to go down that road. The challenge is they would say, this is great, we're getting value from this AI tool in this, and we're getting value from this is great. There isn't many that have gone, well, hang on a minute, where does this lead us to? So the challenge is that individual tool might be a 4 out of 10. Just using AI in that tool might take them to a 7 out of 10. That's amazing. That's an amazing leap, right? So I would suggest pause and just think about where this goes. You want to go from a 4 out of 10 in this application, a 4 out of 10 in this, of course. But if all that does is adding more applications into your tech stack and more cost and more inefficiency, and all these things need managing individually. So my first guidance would be to pause. You might be getting value from these individual things, but pause, just have a think, and then build this AI roadmap if you haven't done already. What is typically happening at scale now is that the CMO or the head of marketing knows that there's a tool that can help them with their individual piece. This is a vertical approach. Their individual piece of work or their content. I'll use an example of content. There's lots of applications out there, artificial intelligence driven, that can help you generate content at speed and at scale. Might solve one specific thing. So they'll go to the CEO and they'll say, I need a budget, I need to put this in. Great, tick, and it's added value. Then you go into supply chain, then you go into all these different areas of the business. And all you've done is go down this rabbit hole of providing an AI tax. I would say pause, get those multiple people in a room and start looking at the business holistically rather than vertically, rather than we need a solve for marketing, and we need a solve for supply chain, and we need a solve for finance. Take a step back, pause, and do that roadmap piece of work, which is multiple people in a room, deep dive, get your CEO or whoever runs the business, whoever knows the P&L, get your tech person, might not have a CTO, that's fine, but you'll know somebody who broadly knows IT or where your data exists, what your environment is, and work through a roadmap of all your challenges, what your business strategy is, where are your biggest challenges, what are the things that could help in AI, what's happening in AI in your vertical, with other businesses in your vertical, and the biggest thing is what are your biggest challenges, and then you will be able to build an AI roadmap. We do this every day, but you could do a mini version of this yourself. You need people who know the business, people who know the tech, and you need to know what questions to ask yourself, and they fall into business strategy, challenges, your tech stack, and AI. And then you have an AI roadmap. So first step, pause. Second step, go down this AI roadmap, and then you need a unified, which is why you could have a session on this alone. Is you need a unified view of the data, right? A lot of businesses we speak to have put in some very, very expensive enterprise level data kits. Some people call them data lakes. Some people call them data, but a single view of data they call it. But is that going to solve those issues you come up with? When you did your AI roadmap piece of work and you looked at your challenges, is that going to solve it? The overwhelming response from businesses now, they've got disparate systems all over the place, different pieces of data all over the place. And the assumption is that putting a data lake in, putting a heavy piece of enterprise expensive kit in on the data side will solve all those issues, and you probably need to rethink that as well. So pause, have a think about your approach, do your AI roadmap, which is business strategy, look at your problems, your challenges, look at your data, look at AI, and then you need to build a unified piece of data kit, if you like. I would suggest that would be an AI horizontal platform, but some businesses are going down the route of a really heavy, expensive kit of data architecture. And once you've got that single view of data, then you start to be able to unlock the ability to do things like agentic AI, which is it understands the environment because all your data is in one place. It can make decisions and it can focus on goals and not tasks. I've simplified it a lot. And this process can take a long time. Like this wouldn't be done in a very quick space of time. But it is the thought process that you need to start going down.
To quote you, and if you put yourself into the mindset of somebody, let's use your example of the shoe store owner turning over 2 mil. If, to use your words, the AI, if AI is about revolution, or rather, sorry, it's revolution, not evolution.
Yep.
What do you think is the next big shift that most businesses aren't seeing yet that they can bulletproof themselves against?
I think it's exactly what we've spoken about. I think it's this horizontal approach. Like I talk about it every day. I haven't had many businesses say that they've thought about this approach. Everybody's thinking about this vertical approach. So I would suggest it's a mindset thing. The example of the e-commerce business is a good one because these are busy people, just trying to run the business on a daily basis, right? You run an e-commerce business, you've got trading to do, you've got reporting to do, you've got it's a rat race and you're in it, right? But you do have to have the discipline, I'd say, to take a step back, pause, as I said, and think about where this is going. There's a myriad of applications out there that can help you in vertical AI, whether it's voice, marketing, customer service, finance. So I'd say it's a mindset thing, and I would suggest in the businesses I've spoken to, and we've dropped that nugget or that idea or that carrot into their brain, it doesn't take them long to get to a point where they go, okay, this is probably the right approach. Now, for a big business that's $200 million and is 150 people, that's going to take a long time, quite frankly. But for a small e-commerce business that might be turning over a couple of $1 million and got 5 or 6 people, it's actually not that big a deal. It's the ability to pause, take a step back and think where this is going. So it's definitely the number one thing is focusing on horizontal rather than vertical. Because, as I said, I've had multiple conversations with businesses recently that are down this path of adding another application in, adding another application in, adding another application in. And I would say pause and just think where that leads you. If you've got 17 pieces of SaaS kit, does that mean you're going to have 17 pieces of AI kit tapped onto them? That's not where you want to be.
No.
And there are other options.
I thoroughly enjoyed our chat. I just want to kind of get a sense of there's this to anyone that is perhaps new to the space, is listening for the first time.
Yep.
What do you think is the most exciting thing about where we're headed with this?
There was a recent report from Deloitte in Australia talking about this digital divide in Australia, and on one side of the divide is 40% of the workforce using ChatGPT on a daily basis. Right, we hear it all the time. I use it every day. It's amazing, which is great for the individual because it's adding individual value, productivity for Mary in marketing or Jonathan who's in the analytics team, right? On the other side of the divide, you've got only 15% of Australian the workforce and businesses in Australia who are AI ready. So the ChatGPT might add individual value to the individual and just doing their single role, this vertical role. You need to think about the value in the organization, right? You need to think about the organization, which is the biggest piece. And there are platforms out there that can work at the organization level rather than the individual level. Having all your team go off and start using ChatGPT might take you from a 2 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10 in productivity. That's great. I'd suggest just pause, have a think about what will get you to an 8 or a 9 out of 10. And it's AI at the organization level. It's not AI at the individual level. And that is a horizontal approach.
Well, thank you ever so much for the time. If anyone would like to read Duncan's article, we will put a link in the podcast or YouTube description. Duncan, thank you very much for your time today. Much appreciated. And we will continue to unravel this mysterious beast as we go through the next few weeks.